Okay, you guys have a seat here in the front, folks. I'm going to do about 5 minutes of NPAC business. I think we're good to go. Okay, so if anybody can't hear me in the back, let me know. Looks like you can. Rudy, it's very comical. Thank you, Rudy. I think you can hear me. Appreciate it. Thank you all for coming, especially on a warm semi-summer evening on the first day of school. We really appreciate it. I'm Katie Dwyer. I'm the current president of North Precinct Advisory Council. We're happy to get started again in the fall. We chose this topic because school is getting started, and already there's been tragedy in the schools, and we want to make sure that in context of how we focus on education for folks in North Seattle, around public safety, around city resources, the kinds of things that they can tap into for support, and in this case for helping kids. We thought this would be a great topic. This is being recorded, so we will focus on keeping questions within the microphone. If you're asking a question, we have asked our speakers all to be sure they repeat the questions. We're not going to try and walk around with a microphone, so just so you know that. I want to acknowledge that I know we have State Representative Lauren Davis. Thank you for attending. We appreciate when our elected officials show up. Do we have any other elected officials who are here? I don't think so. Okay. Thank you. You get gold star for showing up. Tess, would you just stand up and let folks see who you are? Tess is the research assistant working with Professor Jacqueline Helfgott, and we've heard from her over time. She and her team at Seattle University run the survey, public safety survey, and you may have picked up the before the badge and other information that's available. So Tess is going to be continuing to attend our meetings. Thank you. And feel free to connect with her and keep her informed of what you're thinking about public safety in North Seattle. And I think with that, those are all my announcements. I want to go ahead and dive into our speakers. We are very fortunate today to have two speakers from the City of Seattle Department of Education and Early Learning. They are going to talk about what exactly they do, how they support other programs, and hopefully some news you can take back to your neighbors and share. There are some great resources out there, and we want to make sure people know how to tap into those. So with that, I'd like to introduce, are you both going to speak at the same time, or?
We'll do a little comment.
You can, okay. So Chris Alejano and Leilani De La Cruz. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for the introduction, Katie, and just the opportunity for Leilani and I to share a little bit about the work that we do at the City of Seattle's Department of Education and Early Learning. I feel like I'm in a comedy show or something, but all that to say, the acronym for our department is DEAL, and not many people, frankly, within the city confines are aware that the city actually has a Department of Education and Early Learning, and most folks are more familiar with Seattle Public Schools and the school board and their function, but oddly enough, and it's very unique actually across the nation, that unless the city actually helps to run the school district in places like New York and Philadelphia, it's pretty unique that a municipality or government entity would have sort of a hand in influencing and supporting the local education system of a school district or a community in Seattle. So I'll speak on behalf of both Leilani and I to say that it really is a pleasure to be able to do this work, to be able to leverage the resources that we get from taxpayers here within the Seattle, to be able to support students from the very early ages and early learning that Leilani and her division supports, to the K-12 students and even post-secondary students that the division that I oversee supports as well. But we're hoping that today we can give you all just sort of a general overview of what we do at the department, and then focus in on a couple of investments or programs and investments that we wanted to share with you all that perhaps you can also share with your neighbors and friends and family to just create that greater awareness of, again, some of the supports that are out there for folks to tap into. You can go to the next slide. Deal actually was started maybe about 10 years ago. We just had our 10th year anniversary, but you can see on the screen here sort of our mission, which is to transform the lives of Seattle's children, youth, and families through strategic investments in education. We envision a city where all children, youth, and families have equitable opportunities and access to high-quality education services, support, and outcomes. You may not know this, but perhaps some of you in the room in 2018 voted on the city's education levy that essentially supports the various investments that we utilize to realize this mission and vision before us. And the levy actually dates back to 1990 when Norm Rice was mayor, which is when the first education levy was passed. And I believe this is maybe the fifth iteration of the levy, and I believe it's slated to be on the ballot this November for renewal for the 2025 levy. You can go to the next slide. We're always interested in what the impact is of these investments. So in terms of the results that we're seeking to realize, first, all Seattle families have access to affordable, quality childcare. And again, Leilani will speak a little bit more to some of the specifics around our early learning investments. All Seattle children are kindergarten ready. All Seattle students graduate high school, college, and career ready. And then finally, all students attain a post-secondary degree, credential, or certificate. So we really are trying to realize impact across the entirety of the education continuum from early learning to through to post-secondary. So of course, being stewards of taxpayer dollars, we don't just kind of grab different strategies from thin air and hope that they work. We actually utilize research that helps to inform the types of strategies that we use across that educational continuum. So some of these points are probably ones that you've either heard of before, and if not, you know, in the early learning space, it's known that $1 invested in early childhood yields up to $16 in return in societal benefits from higher education attainment. Similarly, $1 invested in quality out-of-school time programming can yield up to $9 in societal benefits such as reduced crime, increased earnings, and better health outcomes. And then more recently, research shows that average earning impacts of 9 to 10% annually from earning a college degree. So again, we know that if we are strategic in our investments and targeting them at the various points of the educational continuum, that we can help create the impact and realize the outcomes that we want to see from early learning through students who are in the post-secondary space to help them earn a certificate, credential, or degree. I'm going to pass it over to Leilani for a little bit here.
Okay, sorry. I'm a lot at work as well. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the actual programs that we fund. As Chris has been talking about, we are a prenatal to post-secondary department. And so we have three main areas where we invest. First is in early learning. So in early learning, we are investing in home visiting strategies to support families with young children. We have a child care assistance program, which helps to families to afford the cost of childcare, and I'm going to go deeper into that today. And then we have also our Seattle preschool program, which is our signature investment for early learning, and I'm also going to talk about that a little bit more today. Is one of the 3 buckets of work that we invest in early learning. Next slide, please. So from early learning, we also invest in K-12 programs. And this is really the heart and soul of our education levy. When it first started in 1990, it started by supporting schools. So we have investments, what we call school-based investments, and that's to support kiddos with, early learning, to support students who may need some extra support in achieving the academic milestones. We have opportunities in access programming that, again, supports students out of school time, out of school. And then the area that Chris is going to talk more about today is around youth mental health and our school-based health centers. Next slide, please. And then our last big area of investment is in post-secondary. So at Deal, again, we're prenatal to post-secondary, and so we've invested in Upward Bound, which is a federal grant, actually, that we received to help students think about college, typically first-generation college-going students. Seattle Promise is our signature program, which we've been lucky to partner with the colleges to offer 2 free years of college for any Seattle Public School graduate. And then finally, we have, to support all of the post-secondary work, we've also been successful in obtaining a regional challenge grant to help us think about the post-secondary system and other things that we could be doing. So you'll hear more about the youth mental health and school-based school-based health centers later from Chris. But I'll start with early learning. So next slide, please. So our signature program is our Seattle preschool program in early learning. And this is our high-quality, evidence-based program for 3- and 4-year-olds in the city of Seattle. Anybody in the city of Seattle can qualify. It's not income-based. However, it is a tuition-based program, and we use income to determine whether or not you're free or going to pay tuition. So we partner with a network of community-based providers, and we also partner with Seattle Public Schools, again, funded by the levy that Chris talked about earlier. And our goal here is to eliminate opportunity gaps and make sure that everyone is kindergarten ready so they can get a head start in school and be successful in school. And again, this is for all Seattle 3- and 4-year-olds. Next slide, please. So what's unique about our program is anybody in the city of Seattle with a 3- and 4-year-old is eligible. About 72% of families who actually participate for free because our income levels are at a point where many families who participate are actually participating for free. Or we do subsidize the tuition all the way up for anybody who is above a certain income level. So most families, however, are participating for free. Again, it's a program for 3- and 4-year-olds for people who live in Seattle. And we have a variety of programs to meet the needs of children. So we have a dual language program right now in Spanish, English, Chinese, Mandarin, English, Somali, Arabic, Vietnamese, and we also have American Sign Language as a dual language program. We also offer different classrooms, classroom types to, again, meet the needs of children. So children with disabilities can participate in our program because we have partnerships with the district around supporting kids with special needs. We also have partnerships with the University of Washington and also with Hearing, Speech, and Deaf Center for children with hearing impairments. So we're really trying to offer, as much variety as we can to make sure we can serve as many kids as we can. Thank you. Next slide, please. And so we brought flyers. We have a pretty nice website. You can apply directly online, or if people want to talk to a human being, which, you know, I know a lot of people still do, we have a hotline that goes to all of our early learning early learning programs. It's 206-3, or folks can email us to get the applications online as well. And everything that I've brought here is available in different languages on our website. So I think it's, yep, we've got 8 different languages available on our website if you need to, if anybody wants the flyers in a different language. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about our childcare program. So childcare, the childcare assistance program is actually our oldest early learning investment. We've had it at the city for about 50 years now. It basically helps families who are working or going to school to help pay for the cost of care. So it helps families to be able to afford childcare up to the age, for children up to the age of 12. We do have about 250 providers that we partner with that are located in a variety of places, so centers, family childcare homes, and also we partner with providers who are housed in school buildings to provide before and after school childcare. Right now, it's funded through our general fund, which is sort of the city's big budget, and also through our sweetened beverage tax. It is going to potentially, it is going to move into the levy in the next levy, but currently it's funded by our general fund and sweetened beverage tax. Again, to help families afford the cost of care, and the average family saves about $10,000 a year in childcare. And as anyone knows, childcare is very expensive these days. So eligibility really is, again, living within the city of Seattle. And we go up, our income threshold is up to 94% of state median income. And for a family of 4, that's $123,000 a year and below. So hopefully we are addressing the needs of as many families as we can, children up to age 12. And also, if you're not currently eligible for another subsidy program. So there are other childcare subsidy programs that benefit Seattle residents. There's a state program for low-income families who are trying to go to work, Working Connections, or also going to school. And King County has a childcare subsidy program as well. So we're one of, there's a few cities around the country that do childcare subsidies, but mostly it's been around the country. It's usually around the state or the county that provides it. We, again, you know, we have a website. I just realized there's QR codes on there. People can click the QR code, go on our website. The phone number that I mentioned earlier is the same phone number if people want to speak to a human being. We do have paper applications also. And next slide, please. Next slide, thank you. We also have the applications in 8 to 10 different languages if people need language support. So those are the 2 big early learning programs that we fund over at Deal through the levy. And now Chris is going to talk about youth mental health.
Yeah, thanks, Alani. Yeah, for my part of the presentation, I'm just going to sort of focus in on some of the investments that help to support youth mental health. So we do have a variety of different strategies that are free that help support youth in the K-12 system and even in the post-secondary system for some of those strategies. But we do that in partnership with a variety of different partners from our folks at Public Health Seattle King County, our partners in Seattle Public Schools, as well as 38 participating sort of providers and community partners that help to provide the suite of services that you see on the right side of the slide here, from our school-based health centers and behavioral health coordinators to virtual therapy or telehealth, youth mental health and first aid trainings, as well as community hub programming that occurs in about 7 of our community centers across the city. Similarly, some of those strategies are funded by the Families Education and Preschool and Promise Levy. And then our more recent youth mental health investments have been supported by the payroll expense tax. Overall, our aim is to promote student and youth access and utilization of physical and mental health services to keep youth safe, healthy, and of course, ready to learn. So who's eligible? Across the different strategies, in terms of school-based services and the school-based health centers that are embedded in 29 of the Seattle Public Schools, students can access their school-based health center if they have one at their school. But even if you don't have a school-based health center in your school, you can access the nearby school-based health center. So anyone that attends any of the Seattle Public Schools can access any of those school-based services. As part of the new investment in mental health, we're expanding some of the staff within the school-based health centers to include an additional mental health clinician, as well as a behavioral health coordinator that can help turnkey students and families to perhaps services that they might need that might be outside of the services that the school-based health center might provide. When it comes to teletherapy, as well as the community hub programming that I mentioned, referenced just a moment ago in our community centers, youth ages 13 to 24 can access those services. And then the educational training that I made mention in the previous slide are intended for adults who either interact or serve youth, as well as youth age 14 through 18, to provide peer-to-peer support. And the youth mental health first aid training is actually modeled kind of after sort of the Medic One approach that SFD or Seattle Fire Department utilizes, where we're trying to help, again, adults who typically interface with youth to be able to identify when a student might be in need of support of some mental health services or otherwise. So again, a newer investment strategy, but we're excited to be launching some trainings that we've done already, and then running a few more trainings in the coming months. How to access school-based services. I mentioned this a little bit. Again, students can access the school-based health centers at their schools, but again, even if you don't have a school-based health center, students and families can go directly to any of the, what is that now, 7 providers that we partner with that help run these school-based health centers within the schools. So again, multiple ways through which students can access those health services. For access to virtual therapy and our telehealth services, again, youth can register directly with any of the participating providers. We have about 6 local community-based providers that offer up both telehealth services as well as in-person services. And they have a particular, I guess, focus on serving diverse student populations. So they have a differentiation that they use within the services that they provide that will either be in the home language that a student speaks at home, or otherwise accommodates for different cultural backgrounds that a student might bring to one of the providers. We're also working with a national organization called Talkspace. You may be familiar with them. I know with the podcasts that I listen to, I hear a lot about Talkspace adverts and the like, but they offer only telehealth therapy. And then June is also sort of a telehealth therapy provider only. But all of them do offer sort of a virtual therapy if that's the option that students opt for. And with that, Leilani and I, she mentioned, some of the flyers that I think we tried to get to most of you as you were either seated or coming through the door. Leilani put some additional flyers here. I put the remainder of the flyers that I have related to youth mental health at the table in the back that you can access. I think all of the flyers have a QR code that will bring you, at least for the youth mental health, and I'm sure the early learning programs as well, to the department's website where you can get additional detailed information about all of the information that Leilani and I shared this evening and probably more. But should you have the need to want to contact us directly, we've provided our contact information on this slide. And then we also have some colleagues that work on our respective teams that are really sort of the subject experts or really have the nuances and details of each of the programs and services that would be happy to connect with you or your friends and family that are trying to access some of these services. If you have, specific questions that perhaps Leilani and I can answer for you directly. But with that, we're happy to field any questions that you might have, and we appreciate your time and attention. Sorry, I can't see your name. Andy, yeah.
I'm just curious about the research you talked about, and there were some numbers. Is that for the city of Seattle, or is that based on, published data?
I think that's, so the question is about where the research that I cited earlier comes from, and I believe it is a national research, not just a Seattle-centric.
So is there Seattle data?
I'm sure there is. That we'd have to go back and gather that information.
Thank you.
In order to take a child into a program, the parents have to take some action. You have to register or whatever the thing is. How do you reach out to parents? Because it will be very difficult for some people, like in a dysfunctional family or difficult living situations, whatever. How can you, what outreach do you do to get these people that you actually want the program to work for, so that they get involved?
Yeah, the question was really about what is the department's outreach strategy to create the awareness and access some of these services and programs. And again, attending sort of spaces like this is one way. We have our DEAL website, social media. We also really rely on working with our partners, whether it's in the early learning space or in the K-12 and post-secondary space, to really help push out all of the information about the different services and programs that we have to offer. But also realize that even with that, right, we're not going to get everyone. And so it's constantly just trying to create this network of sorts so that if I'm sharing this information with you, hopefully you're able to pass it on to a friend or a family member that might be in need of that support. But yeah, if we can get this stuff viral, that would be ideal. But I don't think I'm as charismatic as I ought to be to be able to go viral that way.
Yeah, in addition to that, we have staff, some of our staff do partner with caseworkers and different nonprofit organizations around the city, also to push out the information. So it's a multi-pronged approach, and we're always trying to find new ways of getting out to people. So we're happy to come to whatever meetings or send our staff to whatever meetings. They go to community events and set up tables. They try to talk to as many families as they can. So we're always looking for ways to reach out to families. And then with the youth services, the students can refer themselves, is my understanding. They don't necessarily need parental permission for that. Sorry, wow, we have more questions than I anticipated. I want to go here, and then.
Do you have to turn anybody away from any of your programs, or are you funded to meet sufficient needs?
So the question is, do we have to turn anybody away from any of our programs? The only program that we had an issue with was our child care assistance program a couple of years ago. We actually had a wait list because we didn't have enough resource to meet the demand. We are fortunate, we were able to get some extra funds this year. So there's enough, I don't want to say enough resource, but there is resource and we're constantly looking to serve more families. So, and then that's the only one where I know that we've had a wait list. Yeah.
Yeah. In the K-12 space, we've not had to refuse services to anyone, so. Yeah.
So when you talk about partnerships, so I understand, I get to understand how this works. Are you devising programs and you have funding and then you find partners to execute them and then you give them funding? Is that how this is working?
Yeah, the question is how do we essentially come up with some of these strategies and work with partners, and who's actually doing the work or otherwise coming up with the. Yeah, again, whether it's the funding that comes through the levy or gets allocated from the general fund or some of these other taxes, it comes with certain parameters around how it ought to be used. And so then at the department, we often have requests for funding investments or opportunities where then based on the funding competition, for lack of a better term, we then invite people who to apply to receive those resources given these requirements and parameters and certain outcomes that we're hoping to achieve. And then the dollars get doled out accordingly, and then we execute contracts, et cetera, to ensure that we're receiving our return on the city's investment.
Sometimes we have the luxury of being able to do a community process where it's like, you will, and I'm going to make this up, you will invest in, mental health. And so, but, decide, could engage the community so that you can decide what's going to be the most effective. So sometimes we have the luxury of doing that before we have to run our competitive funding processes. But sometimes we don't, and it just sort of comes with like, this is how we're going to run the program. But in general, we do competitive funding processes for everything. Sorry, I saw a hand up earlier.
Are you talking about like college and the high school? Yeah, Running Start is a state-funded program, but Leilani referenced the Seattle Promise program where, again, if you're a Seattle Public School graduate and you're interested in going to one of the two-year Seattle colleges, whether that's North, Central, or South Seattle College, the city will pay for your tuition. That resource also provides staffing at the colleges to help recruit students to apply to the program. And then once they're admitted into the college, there's additional staffing that helps to ensure that they get the sort of counseling and support so that they are able to be retained and stay on track to graduate and earn their certificate, credential, or degree. The last component of that Seattle Promise investment is, we call it the equity scholarship. And so if you are a Pell eligible student, you get an additional resource to help support any other costs of going to college that you might have beyond just tuition. I believe that's the case. I just went through that with my daughter in the sense, oh, I'm sorry. The question was about whether or not age 13 is sort of the age in which a young person does not have to inform their parents about receiving health services. And I believe the answer to that is yes. And I mean, I have a 15-year-old. When she turned 13, it was certainly, I guess, a bit interesting feeling like she could access health services. And even, I go to Kaiser, don't have access to her records, et cetera, without her permission. But that is the case with the mental health services as well. Mm, right. Mm, right. Yeah, so the observation is around the use of ChatGPT to address mental health issues or otherwise, particularly with students, and how are we countering that? Part of our youth mental health strategy in the city is to try to create just greater awareness and to really destigmatize, um, you know, going to seek more clinical types of supports or otherwise find other non-clinical supports that could perhaps address a need that a youth might be having. Um, and so we're hoping that again by offering a suite of options for youth that it's not just a chat GPT inquiry and then you get some sort of response spat back out at you and then you just blindly follow that because I similarly have heard not just with youth but I mean adults too are taking that approach to address needs that they might have from ones that maybe are more surfacey to ones that are probably require greater professional attention. So that is the hope as we've gotten started in this work over the last year is to try to create that awareness, offer different sorts of services so that the first option isn't to just Google it.
I believe they are, yeah. Thank you. I'll let the teachers over there know that. Yeah, thank you.
Pardon me?
I'll put the flyers up front.
That's great. That's great, thank you. So the flyers will be up front. We will send out the presentation along with our minutes, as we usually do. They'll be available. And so all the contact information that you saw in the slide was there. Thank you very much. We may have a smaller crowd than usual, but there was a lot of interest. I think this is great, and I'm glad you guys are going out in the community. I don't think most people really understand what's available. So thank you. Our next speaker, I think, Casey, it's your turn. Come on up from the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, and we'll get an update on everything that's been going on the last couple months. Thank you, Casey.
Hey, folks. So one of the topics that I know is on folks' mind is the return to school and how are things going with the Safer Schools initiative. And a recap of what that is, it had a soft rollout in 2023, but in early 2024, King County Prosecuting Attorney Lisa Mannion and Jamie Kivasad, who's the Assistant Chief of our Juvenile Division, rolled out a Safer Schools initiative. And there are many different points to this. Part of it is coordinating amongst school officials and different districts across the state and in King County. Another key part of it is when you have a kid who is charged with a felony crime that involves a gun, making sure that the school knows about that, because teachers and administrators are there to try to help kids. And if you've got a kid who's charged with a crime, that means that both the police investigators and prosecutors believe that there's enough evidence beyond a reasonable doubt to show that this child used a gun. And before the Safer Schools initiative, those notifications weren't happening. And it was Jamie and Lisa who realized, hey, we've got to fix this. We've got to get better communication to make sure that those children don't hurt themselves or others. And since this program has launched in early 2024, through this week, there have been more than 200 notifications. Those are notifications once we filed a case to say, hey, just a heads up, you might want to look out for this kid. We want to make sure that everything works out. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but either way, we think that added communication helps. And we're going to keep going on that and making sure that different districts across King County and the state have the best practices, know what things work for other districts. And another key element too is a weekly call called J-Watch, which is where the 39 different law enforcement agencies can call in. It's almost like office hours in college, not that we're the professors, but it's that same model where in addition to being able to call anytime for questions about a case, if investigating officers have questions about a law or how to interpret something or any kind of general questions, they can reach out to our office, and there's been a lot of success with that. There have been times where they have reached out to say, hey, this kid is on our radar, we want to make sure that you know about it too, to try to keep that kid from hurting themselves or others. That's really the goal. And there was recently, you might have seen headlines about, there were some juveniles who were charged in a series of robberies and being investigated also for many more, some of them right around here. That really came together through great work by Seattle Police, who have been the best at using J-Watch. It's been really helpful to have them consistently on those calls. They did great work, and every week there were updates, and what was developed on those calls certainly to strengthen the charges and those cases. We think that it will continue to be helpful going forward, so that's really great to see. On that note of there's been more than 200 notifications, I think some folks might look at that and say, wow, there's 200 gun crime cases involving kids. That sure seems like a lot, and it is a lot. It's also important to put it in perspective too, that we're a county of 2.4 million people. It's not all Seattle. That's every district across King County, and not all of those notifications are for individual people. That number is very close, but there can be multiple notifications for the same person if they're released by the courts and then reoffend, which in some cases happens. The other question that I think folks will have is, how are we doing in terms of juvenile gun crime now that we're back to school, and questions around that. What I can tell you is last year, juvenile cases for children that used a weapon in the case, that can be a gun, a knife, or other type of weapon. There were 426 of those cases that were charged across King County. Through the end of June, that number is 215. So we're right around the same number. The good news there is that we're not seeing it increase as we have coming out of the pandemic. It was interesting in the pandemic, the adult crime seemed to dip a bit in certain categories. I'm sorry, that's the opposite. Adult crime seemed to go up a bit in certain categories. Juvenile crime seemed to go down. Part of that kids, they don't make as many dumb decisions. I can say that's true for my case, for sure, growing up. But we saw that rebound to pre-pandemic levels. The good news is it's not a massive spike like we have seen. The numbers are consistent. The hard part is that the numbers are consistent. We want to see those numbers going down, but that's why it's important to have things like those weekly calls that SPD has been so great on, and many officers from the North Precinct, and those routine calls with the school districts to make sure that we're addressing serious concerns before you get a case on our desk. Because when you get to that point, when you have a kid using a gun, that can't be a diversion case. That's got to go before the court, especially involving a school. That's got to be before the court. But we want to, try to ebb that behavior before it gets to that point. We've also seen a lot of great work from North Precinct officers around Aurora. I'm sure that you'll see more about that. A shout out to Rep. Davis for meeting with our office this week, really trying to get some solutions for Aurora. We'll have more on that next month, and also it's budget time for King County, and so you will hear more in the coming weeks about what we've asked the council and the executive for with the sales tax that was passed recently for criminal justice. We certainly have needs and are hoping for parity with the Department of Public Defense, and so you'll hear more about that in the upcoming weeks. Are there questions that anybody has about things that I've either shared or thoughts on your mind or anything about the North Precinct? Rudy? Thanks, Rudy. I appreciate that. Oh, yeah. What Rudy said is that he's one of those businesses and one of those taxpayers that is paying into that sales tax and appreciates the efforts for the criminal justice funding. And the Department of Revenue let me know about it. Did they? Oh, right on. Well, I'm glad you're in support of it. That's great. Thanks. We appreciate that. We also know that taxes are hard anytime. Nobody likes paying those, but it certainly does pay off, we think. One and then two.
When you go for more money, are you going to more money for public defenders?
Yes. Actually, there's actually more public defenders than there are prosecutors right now in King County. There are more public defenders than there are prosecutors right now in King County handling criminal cases. They have a real benefit to public defenders that they have caseload standards that were issued by the state Supreme Court, and that's beneficial for them. We need the public defenders to be well funded. We need them to have reasonable caseloads. We also need prosecutors to have reasonable caseloads too. It's got to be a balanced system, but we certainly want that parity, between each of our offices.
I'd like to go back to Aurora a little bit. I've got several properties in North Seattle, and the problem seems to be getting worse and worse. I don't see any action police that I noticed to be a lot better, other than they patrol up and down or they don't pull anybody over. There's massive speed. There's some motorcycles in the intersections right in front of the police that go for 3-4 minutes doing their thing. So why is that our police aren't able to do anything? Is that coming from the mayor's office or what? Because years ago, we used to be able to clean it up pretty quick. And years ago, as far as prostitution, they used to put that big bus out there. They clean Aurora up 2 nights. Why aren't we doing any of that stuff? My main house is 3 blocks off of Aurora.
So Casey's with the prosecutor's office. Captain's up next, just so you know. Did you have a question about how things are prosecuted on Aurora?
Oh, I know some of your answers. I think part of it, and the captain can talk to this too, but I think part of it is police resources. You've got to make sure that you have not only the officers to respond to 911 calls, but also the follow-up detectives. But what I can tell you from the prosecutor's office is we'd absolutely charge a case there. What we focus on are the pimping cases. Those come to us. The prostitution the lower level misdemeanors by law go to the city attorney's office. But, you see some really terrible acts of human trafficking on Aurora, and we've got prosecutors who work on that every day and who are phenomenal prosecutors. And I'm sure that if you saw them in court, you would be reassured that they're actually doing what you want them to do. Also, Amy Friedheim and Adam Euchre with the felony traffic unit, they routinely go after those folks. The key is getting those folks to us. We know that SPD is really trying on it, and it's hard that it takes resources. And that's not meant to be a cop-out. I think that there are a lot of factors, but I know that SPD is trying to get those cases to us, and when they do, we certainly charge them. And if there's ever a case where you have an incident number and you want to know, hey, what are you actually doing on this case? Or if it's not with you guys, where is it? Reach out to me anytime. If it's with us, I can certainly tell you where it is. If it's with the city attorney's office, I can put you in touch with exactly who is on that. Or if it's still under investigation, who to follow up with SPD. Yeah.
So much problem, with the businesses that have closed out.
Yeah.
The home resales that have fallen.
Yeah.
What it's doing is it's affecting the taxpayer, the guy who goes to work every day. And so, I know in my neighborhood, we're all up in arms because we have coming into our neighborhood, kids can't use the park anymore because they're
So we're just about to move into getting the captain's report. So it sounds like you might not have been to North Carolina before. It's a great opportunity.
Although we're working on that, I hear you on that. Verge Flame Park, I grew up there as a kid. There was the double homicide there the other day. That's pretty scary, and I don't have a great answer for you. But I hear you on it, and I know that if we get those cases, that the King County Prosecutor's Office will charge those. It is really unsettling, and I don't think that there's an answer right now that is satisfying, but I do believe that the captain's working on it. That's a good transition to, hey, sorry for the, that's a terrible lead-in. But
Thank you, Casey McNerthney. We appreciate that. So I'll take just one quick second to just call out that if you're new to NorthPAC, the way that we divide up our agenda, one of the things we really value is that this meeting, whether it's here or on Zoom, gives you a chance to come and talk directly to different folks. So we do try to channel into the area for the expert for your question, which I think for you is the North Precinct captain. So if I ever seem to cut you off, it's not because we don't want to hear you, it's because we want the person who can probably answer you best to be the one who speaks to it. So with that, Captain George Davison, I'm going to hand you the mic. Remember to repeat the questions or comments.
If I don't, I know you'll remind me. How's everybody doing? Thank you for coming tonight. I just want to let you know I'm catching up on everything. I took a week vacation. It was my first vacation for the entire year. So I had some time away with the family. When I came back, I had over 1,000 emails. So that's what I spent yesterday and the day and today doing, was catching up, trying to answer all the concerns that were there. So if I don't have all the answers tonight, I might dip over to some other resources here. I left it in the very capable hands of acting captain, Garth Haynes, who's the operations lieutenant for the North Precinct while I was away. So if there are recent incidents that I don't have answers to, I can defer to him. So I will start real quick with statistics. I normally like to just touch on it. Oh, look at that, they put them up there for us. So for the North Precinct, the first column there is year-to-date statistics for just the North Precinct. So you can see year-to-date, violent crimes down 10%, and this is the entirety of North Precinct, which is huge, right? Down 10%, property crime down 15%, shots fired down 19%. And then that's year-to-date compared to previous years, last year as well as the previous year, 2024, excuse me. And then we have 28 days, the last 28 days kind of captures what's happening currently. And we have violent crime down 13%, property crime down 20%, and shots fired down 44% from last year, which is a pretty good number. Burglaries are down 23%, year-to-date, motor vehicle theft 30%, and then you can see the numbers there, 16% down for the last 28 days, and then motor vehicle theft down 19%. You can go to the next slide. Oh, that's the only one. Well, I have more. I have more. So we break it down further because all the crime that gets reported, again, this is only captured with what is reported, what officers respond to and write reports for, or what people call 911 for, right? So if you don't report it, we don't know about it, and we won't be able to capture that data. So this is only on the reported crime. So breaking it down further, we do have an escalation in the North Precinct in homicides this year. We've had 8 this year. The prior year, we had 5. So everybody knows about the double homicide that happened in the Virgil Flame Park. We've had some other, excuse me, I'm getting over allergies coming back from the Caribbean to here. For some reason, the weather appears a little bit different. So, in all the different categories, homicide is up, rape is down 23%, robbery is down 16%, so we break it down by category, and we can actually go down to the individual crimes, but I'm focusing on the larger ones. At this point in time, aggravated assault's down 5%, and then arson is up. It's 31 currently this year. The previous year was 25 at this time. And then burglary, larceny, and motor vehicle theft are all down. And that is consistent through the last 28 days as well. Shots fired, more of a breakdown. 2 years ago, we had 111. At this time, we currently have 101, and last year we had 124 year to date at this time. And then the last 28 days, this is kind of the more significant one. 2 years ago, we had 17 within the last 28 days, 16 the previous year, and currently 9 for right now. So that's it for the stats. We'll go over some of the good work that the officers are doing, and I will answer some of your questions because in previous NPACs, we have discussed kind of what the strategies that we've been doing along Aurora, all the different units and all the different city agencies that we have involved in that project. So I'm happy to touch upon that again. But some of the things that we've had to deal with over the summer while everybody's been taking a break on the NPAC, we had FIFA. So we had a lot of our patrol resources that were dedicated to those events. Numerous events in Seattle, we have resources that are down there, whether or not it's a demonstration, whether or not it's car meetups where you have hundreds of vehicles that are meeting up and racing or doing other activities. Recently we had that started in the North Precinct with motorcycles, estimated to be about 200 motorcycles that we had a few officers that were able to follow it, make sure that it left the city of Seattle without causing crime. I mean, they were causing traffic issues, but ultimately they weren't committing violent crime, which ultimately they went to a different city. So that was our community response group that was able to follow them throughout the city to make sure that that they were safe to do so. Concerts, Seafair, Mariners, Sounders events, and essentially a lot more. So we also have our back to school stuff, and I know that that's kind of the topic tonight. So I met with my lieutenants today. This is my first real day back, getting in the saddle again. Meeting with them, letting them know that, hey, school's starting up. We need to have more patrol resources when they're not on calls, driving around schools, going to the different locations. University of Washington is going to be starting soon. I believe it's on the 17th of September, if I'm not wrong. They've requested additional presence in that area in the University District as school starts to start up so that we have crime levels that go down a little bit. Some of the other initiatives with school, we do have our relational policing unit that is dedicated to reaching out to community through the youth, right? They not just through youth, but they have a lot of resources and activities and things that they do with youth. We have CPAL. I know that that was a request. CPAL is Seattle Police Activities League. It's a proactive group with Seattle police officers and personnel that will actually go out and engage with youth and provide opportunities for them to engage with police officers off duty. So in other words, we have coaches, mentors, and activities for kids that are led by police officers. Some of the things within the last, so this was put out in February. And it talks about the last 6 months of the things that they have done, and they're going to be doing more as school starts. But some of the things that they do, engaging in youth boxing classes, basketball, dodgeball, and all sorts of other activities to get their heart rate up and get outside. Another request was whether or not our Seattle Police Explorers program is still active. It absolutely is. That allows young men and women between the ages of 14 to 21 years old to kind of engage with police officers, learn what they do, put on a uniform that basically says Seattle Police Explorers, and then they go to different events with the Seattle police officers. They learn about the history of Seattle, the history of policing, how we do things. They go to our events. 4th of July, we saw a lot of them. They were there working with us. They were doing kind of tasks that they were still safe to do so, but still feeling a part of law enforcement. So it's a great program to get them engaged and get them learning about law enforcement and engaging with the public at a younger age. So those are just a couple of the things. They do backpacks for kids. We have a program that does beds for kids later on, closer to Christmas. We do donations, and then we ultimately go out and deliver those beds to people that can't afford beds. I think that's kind of it that I want to talk about on relational policing. And then just a couple things. I want to call out some of the great work that the police officers have done since the last NPAC. So while I was getting ready to come here, putting on my vest to get here, we had officers down in the University District arresting a guy who was actively going around and assaulting people, took his shirt off and started punching people just to do it. So that significant amount of resources to take that person into custody. So that was awesome. Yesterday, our NORA 90 cars, which are kind of an emphasis cars along Aurora, they conducted 2 operations, both in plainclothes as well as in uniform, and were able to make a drug arrest that resulted in 4.2 grams of meth along with additional substances that were used to sell down in the University District. So they took that person into custody. And while they were in that area, they also observed another subject who was assaulting people with his fist and baton, and they took him into custody and booked him for assault second degree. And then just a couple days ago, this was a high-profile incident. Officers recognized a person that was unintentionally let out of the jail and was a serial rapist and had been out on the street for over a month. The North Precinct officers observed that person, recognized him, stopped him. He gave a fake name. They were able to determine based off of tattoos and other information that he was the serial rapist. They took him into custody. He's back in jail, back in custody now. So kudos to the North Precinct on that. The officers are working their butts off. And then another high-profile incident, and this will kind of dovetail into another conversation about Magnuson here in a minute, but there's an officer that's currently working a Magnuson detail down there, and on his day off, Kent PD called up, and we're trying to find out details about a murder suspect that was in that area. This officer was off duty, called in, gave him all the details because he knew that person, knew what car they were associated with, knew the person that they hang around with, worked with the staff there to kind of determine where exactly that person was, and essentially, while off duty, had Kent PD work their way in to make a homicide arrest. So I think that is awesome. Being able to know the community and who all's there is phenomenal. So 2 really big shout outs there. A couple things that we've had to deal with in a couple of days. And when I say in the last couple of days, I say we, I mean my patrol officers, they're working their butts off. We had suicidal male or suicidal subject on one of the bridges that wanted to jump off. Officers got there, stopped traffic, worked for quite a while, and were able to get him to come off the ledge. Another one just the other day, housemate called up and said that their roommate was suicidal and wanted to hurt themselves with a rifle. Officers had to shut down the area. Ultimately, they were able to convince that person to come into police caretaking and ultimately an ITA, which is an involuntary treatment. We take them up to the hospital, and we were able to recover the rifle as well as request an ERPO, which is a emergency. Garth, do you remember that? Thank you. Thank you. She got it. Extreme risk protection order. So with a court order, we can take the weapons away from them until they can deal with the courts to get them back. So a couple operations that have happened up here. We have our General Investigations Unit that is doing organized retail theft operations. They've done several on Aurora recently. The most recent ones in July, there was one down in the University Village where they arrested several people. 4 arrests were made and over $2,000, several $100s of merchandise, and then cash was recovered. And then recently, they also did one at TJ Maxx, and 4 arrests were made there. So, see what else I have. Our CRG unit is constantly working up here, our community response group, I mentioned that. Now that the summer events have passed, they have more resources to dedicate out and work in different areas, but they are spread throughout the city. So they will touch at South Jackson, then they'll touch in downtown area, and then they'll work their way up here and do some operations up here, and then go down south and work down there. So they're doing proactive work. They're also hitting the Pike Pine corridor up in the East Precinct, which is with all the push that's been happening downtown and the downtown activation teams. Some of that stuff, the crime has pushed its way up to the East Precinct. So some of their operations are being targeted there. They're taking guns and drugs off the streets up in those areas, sending me pictures, sending the chief of police pictures saying, hey, look what we did this week. So they do that every week. They send a weekly and let us know what they're doing. So I think that's it that I wanted to cover, and I'm happy to answer questions. First, I'll answer your question that you were asking about Aurora, what we're doing. So I've talked about it before. We'll start with the promoting prostitution, or the patronizing. Oh my gosh. No. Yes, that's the law that was passed. There's a law that was passed by the former council member Moore, Kathy Moore. She kind of championed it. Ultimately, it was passed by the city council. It allows us to essentially go after the traffickers, which are the pimps. The sex workers is a different topic, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then the Johns, or the people that are buying sex. So that law allows us to go after the traffickers as well as the Johns, and it has stipulations that allow us, the people that are buying sex or paying for sex, if we put an undercover officer out there, they make arrests, they go up, they offer money for sex, ultimately they can be arrested for that. And that's what our vice unit does. They'll come up in plain clothes. Our patrol officers are answering 911 calls, so they don't often have time, but they do support those operations when they can. They come up there offering to do at least 1 or 2 a month, and they have been doing that since the beginning of the year, since I took over at the North Precinct. We used to have, there was a mention of staffing. So we used to have a street vice crime unit that would go out, and that was their job, was to go and deal with street vice. But due to staffing, that has been reduced. Our vice unit is quite, I think we have 2 or 3 detectives now in vice, where we used to have multiple units. All of Seattle. All of Seattle. So they're working all the vice crimes for all of Seattle. And there's like 2 human trafficking detectives as well that deal with not just, so human trafficking is not just sex related. It could be bringing people in and forcing them to do any kind of labor work for low pay and not allowing. Give me 1 second. What was that? I'm sorry. Yeah, give me 1 second. A reasonable size for that unit. So as everybody understands, our resources dipped and we're bringing them back up. So we're doing what we can with what we have, and I don't want to focus on the fact that we don't have what we used to. I want to focus on what we can do with what we have, right? And the fact that it's been mentioned in the news that we're up to over 100 officers that were hired this year, or people that are in the hiring process. So they're starting to trickle in. Takes about 2 years for an officer from the start of training to the end of training to where they're actually on the street doing it by themselves. That's after probation. They're off You know, they've gone to the academy, they've done pre-BLEA, post-BLEA, post-basic law enforcement academy, pre-basic law enforcement academy, and then the academy itself, as well as being on FTO. So it's about a 2-year process, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. It depends on the student, depends on how many things that they're deficient in or how quickly they can progress through it. So sometimes it takes longer, sometimes it goes quicker. So we are seeing them trickle in, so we're getting more officers. That's a great thing, but we did take a dip. So a lot of our units, you mentioned traffic. Our traffic unit is almost daily up here working it. So to give you an idea of our traffic unit, we used to have about 40 people in the traffic unit, both motors, meaning motorcycles, as well as cars, and multiple sergeants and a lieutenant and a captain. I think we're down to 5, as in cars that are available. So one will get assigned to the North Precinct, one will get assigned to a different area wherever their community complaints come in, right? So if somebody says, hey, there's speeders going along Sandpoint Way, and I do know that we had our CRG officer worked Sandpoint Way for quite a while, for several days, to enforce the speeding down there. And then he might have to go to somewhere in South Seattle where they're getting community complaints. So they're bouncing around doing that. And I do know that our traffic unit is very supportive of Aurora, and they have been up here, and I hear them on the radio daily. So when I'm here, I hear our traffic units log to it. Another thing that I've requested is our SWAT team, when they're not on calls, are up here logging to events on Aurora. I hear them every day. So we have our community response group, we have our patrol officers, our NORA 90 car is a proactive enforcement arm of the police department. So when our resources allow, which generally is our double up day, I don't want to tell everybody when it is, but we have a day where we have 2 sides for officers, right? So we have a staffing on 4 days, and then 4 days are a different group of officers. So on one of those days, they overlap, and we have more officers. On those days, we have the ability to go out and push more proactivity. So the arrest that I mentioned with the NORA 90 car on here, that was one of those proactive days, and they were able to go out in plain clothes, potentially a plain car, and do undercover operations that we normally would not be able to do with the limited resources that we have at that time. But when we have that overlap day, we can push out more. We've got an SDCI, which is the Seattle Department of Contracts, and Inspections, or Construction and Inspections. So they go out to all the vacant properties, and they make sure that they're abiding by the rules, keeping the vacant properties locked up. If there's graffiti on them, we report that there's graffiti on them. They come out and they'll actually spray paint the buildings. They initially try to contact the owners to get their permission, and if they can't get a hold of them, then ultimately they will put them under restriction, not restriction, but fines until they get their property up to codes. So we have 2 project officers for the North Precinct. One is Officer Whalen, who's sitting over here. He covers kind of the east side of I-5. And then we have Officer Cruzan, who's the west side of I-5. And those officers, I task them, and they also get other tasks from community members of, hey, we have a problem in this area, can you come out and help us out? Or I might say, which I have, which Officer Cruzan does this weekly. He drives up Aurora and checks on all the vacant properties, checks on the issues that are going on, reports it to Find It, Fix It, as well as works with our alternative response unit, which also works with the unified care team to clean up different encampments, clean up graffiti, clean up properties, and other issues. So that is an ongoing issue, ongoing complaint that they're working on. I think I'll leave it at that, and then I'll open it up for questions. There's a lot more. That's just the tip of the iceberg of what we have been trying to do with what we have. We've been working with the mayor's office, council members. I mean, you name it, we've reached out. We have the Parks Department here tonight. We work with the Parks Department all the time, trying to work hand in hand. And not only just, I mean, there's tons of parks in the city of Seattle, I think over 400 if I'm not wrong. Over 500 parks in the city of Seattle. So when we have an issue in a park like Virgil Flame Park, and I know the Lake City is at the mini park, They recently shut that down for the next couple of days, so I'll let you talk about that, but they've shut down a couple of parks over there because they're having problems with encampments. So they work with SPD and they work with our unified care team, not ours, but the City of Seattle's unified care team, as well as our alternate response unit, to go out there and safely clear out that park, offer services, and then shut that park down. And I don't know what the plan is for that, and I'll let you attest to that here in a minute.
pull those cars over, take them out of the car, and make a show. If you guys are still parked, there's no respect for the police officer. That's the problem. If they show, if you guys can show that you're taking them out of the car, you're questioning, the next guy that's gonna pick one of those girls up is gonna go. Why I'm so upset with this is my main house is 3 blocks off the road. They come up, they park in front of our driveways, our kids can't go out at night, I stay up late until they get home, so I walk to get through the driveway. It's become a place where it's not safe anymore. I grew up there, so I know how good it was before. And it used to be, you got out of the end, cops left, and you were back in shape. You guys don't even get out of the car to pull them out to discuss them, and they're doing it right in front of you. You've seen it. I see it. I drive up there with my girlfriend, we get ice cream at McDonald's and go for the amusement ride all the way to Greenway. It's constant. And so my complaint is why aren't you guys out of the car showing your presence? When you show your presence, people start thinking, yeah, I'm not pulling over to get that chick because the cop might pull me out and I got to go through what that guy's going to go through.
Yep.
When you don't do anything and it happens in front of you, it's worse and worse and worse. And I've been watching for years here. Now it's so bad that, I mean, it's just, we've been trying to sell the house up to Bitter Lake for 2 years. And its price is right. But we've got to drop the price because the first thing they complain about is the neighborhood. And they say there's no police up here. Nothing that's really going to help us. And then my next question is, so you don't have the resources. Does that come from the mayor? Does it come from our city council? Or do we have to figure out how to fire those people to get something happening? I mean, we pay big taxes to live up here. Taxes on that house are $8,000.
So I will answer a couple of those, and then I'm going to tip it over to Rudy here because I know that he's going to follow up on that. So with regards to enforcing, one of the things that I mentioned on that patronizing prostitution law, I remembered it, by the way. Boom, got it. That middle component, the sex workers, the law indicates that we have to have, 1, trauma-informed training, and 2, that we have to provide services first, right? Or attempt to provide services first. It's not that putting people in jail for potentially being a sex worker or, being a victim of human trafficking is not what the City of Seattle and that law allows for. So there are things, hang on, please let me finish now. There are things in that law that make it so that we have to have things in place before that we can actually make those contacts. And then with the Johns, when we do make those stops, when the patrol officers make those stops, after they see somebody pick up a female, what's the quickest defense on that? What's the first thing they're gonna say? Is, I'm just giving her a ride, right? And unless they tell that patrol officer, I was going to give her money for sex, or he was going to give me money for sex, then the patrol officer, it's reasonable suspicion to stop, it's not probable cause. So, and then they go away. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
What we will say is that we like to keep coming because we talk about this, and we understand we also have to have some time to talk about some other things. You mentioned your parks,
Yep.
getting short of time.
Well, first, I'll get to your question real quick, but I do want to introduce John Jenga. If I pronounce that wrong, please get after me. But this is a Seattle Parks representative that we work kind of hand in hand when we have issues with parks, or meaning like encampments or issues related to parks. We reach out to them, we work in coordination with them and the mayor's office and city council to try to get things changed not only in the parks but around the park. So you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, no problem. And I'm very used to having people mispronounce my name, so I'm not offended at all when you say that. Good evening, everybody. My name is John Hainga. I am with the Seattle Parks and Recreation. I am the Community Service Branch Manager. I oversee emergency management, our park rangers, and our park activation. The park activation, those are the concierge that you see mostly in the downtown parks. We're starting to spread out into the neighborhood parks, and we provide different types of activation, either musicians, games, some performers, to kind of deter some of the behavior. So it's a more active, more friendly, more inviting place so that folks can come and use the parks. That includes like our dancing till dusk and some of our movie nights as well. I'm going to kind of jump right into some of the things like the little mini park at Lake City. The mayor's office asked us to do a pilot project for about 60 days to monitor the closure of that park. There was a lot of encampments there. As park rangers, we cannot engage in any encampment, and that was a directive from the city council in November of 2022 when we first, when Mayor Harold reestablished the park ranger program. So we have to, just like everybody else, use the Find It, Fix It to notify our unified care team to get a field officer to get someone out there to do an outreach to the folks in the encampment. And the field officers know how many resources, beds that are available. And a lot of times, some of the folks that the field officers contact, these folks do not want any help. Example, when we were doing it early on, before the unified care team, maybe 2 people out of a group of 30 would take the resources that we are offering that the city had, and that was through a lot of our partners with King County, a lot of private partners, churches, to get folks the help that they need, but a lot of folks are just turning it down, and it's still pretty much like that right now. Hate to say it, but our unified care team's working really hard with that. The park rangers work very close with them every day to make sure that the parks are safe for all of our kids. It was very unfortunate on the incident that happened at Virgil Flame. I've got 19 rangers right now for over 500 parks, 26 community centers, 10 pools, and 4 golf courses. And that's 7 days a week. We have a morning shift, evening shift. I'm lucky to have 4 or 3 patrol rangers daily in the morning and afternoon and evening. Right now, we're still on our summer schedule. We start at 9 o'clock in the morning to about 4:30, and then our evening shift's on until 12:30 midnight. And we are going to look and see if our later shift makes sense to help close some of the parks, close the gates, help educate folks that the park is closed. We are revamping some signs from 1987 that somehow got taken down in all our parks. But basically, it's a park code that says that the parks is a tollway zone after hours. So if someone is parked inside a park, when the posted hours of that park is closed, it becomes a tollway zone, and that's under our chapter 1812. So that it kind of will help deter a lot of folks from hanging out in the parks after hours till early in the morning, where I have to call Captain Davis and his crew to say that, we've got some visitors that won't leave the park and are continuing to party. Question? Yes. I would say yes. Have we seen improvements in Magnuson Park? I would say yes. We drafted a memorandum of an understanding and agreement with the police. We have worked closely with Chief Davison and his team, and they get folks that sign up on a voluntary basis, but we also hired private security to help us. So I would say, yes, we've seen an improvement. I've got some data to share that shows a lot of the activity kind of being reduced. So yes, just not in Magnuson, but Golden Gardens, Alki, and a lot of others as well. So I'll stop there.
No, I just wanted to mention about Magnuson Park. We not only had the 2 officers that were on there on voluntary basis, we actually have 2 officers that are now assigned down there that are working. They work second watch hours. They have a gator, a Seattle Police Department gator, so they can get around the park. The park is quite large, so it allows them to get down different trails and different things and make contact with people, engage with the community. It's not just an enforcement arm. They're intentionally out there to be a visible presence when they can be. So, and they work second watch hours just on their normal shift, essentially, but that is their detail now. So, and since then, I know that they've taken at least 1 gun off the street. That officer that identified the murder suspect, that was one of those officers. And then recently, they also broke up a very large fight disturbance with 6 arrests down there, with multiple people assaulting 1 person. And there are multiple foot pursuits, and then taking those people into custody. So doing what we can with what we have. So, yeah. No, I will just say that, as I mentioned multiple times, our officers are out there going call to call, working their tails off, trying to keep this area as safe as possible. We all know that, staffing dipped, but it is coming back up. How long that'll take, I don't know, but we're going to keep on working as hard as we can to do what we can do. So, what's that? I can. If Katie gives me time, or I can talk to you afterwards. Either way.
selective enforcement of what is priority versus
Yeah, I will, I understand. Yeah, I'm happy to speak to Rudy afterwards.
I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you. You know, it is frustrating for people that, I know you have something to say. You want to be able to say it to the end of what feels right to you. We don't always have time to do that. We try to be a place where you can come and share. The officers are here for a short while after. You can talk directly, but we don't actually have the time, and we need to respect your time by, keeping to our promise to start on time and stop on time. And hopefully we've helped you make connections so that you can continue the conversation outside of this meeting. We can't solve it all here. But thank you, Captain, very much. Appreciate your time. And appreciate all of you coming on a warm summer evening. A couple things I wanted to call out. Our wonderful crime prevention person, Caitlin, is there. If you don't know about our crime prevention team, remember to utilize them, because if you can do something, reach out. They will help you learn how to protect your neighborhood, protect your home. They have some great services, so don't forget about them. Also, remember, when you think about crime and you're telling us something that's happened in your neighborhood, the first thing we want you to ask that person is, did you report it? If you didn't report it, they don't know about it. And remember, the online reporting tool has been improved. We're hearing good reports that you don't have to be on a line forever, just go online. So a couple of quick reminders. Next meeting is Wednesday, October 1st. We return to Zoom for October through May. So we will send out the meeting announcement and the Zoom link. We thank you all for coming. We want to thank again Epic Life Church, Pastor Eric, suddenly blanked on your name. Sorry about that. We really appreciate it. This is a wonderful space, and it's very generous that you folks share this with us. So thank you all, and good night.